Hello FlossTube, it's Janae. I'm back with my fourth video, and I'm here to talk about some finishes, as well as an FFO, some starts, my whips. I have some haul as well. So let's get started. I want to start out with comments on the last video. Thank you again for all the views and comments and likes. I appreciate it. So I did not realize that real silk can stink, and Shelly Sykes left a comment about that. Let me know that that silk has an odor, so that's good to know with regards to the shawl I got in Israel. I'm still working on getting the smell out. I kind of handled it again today and it still feels really gritty, so I'll have follow-up on that later when I get some more time. To Cowgirl Kate Paints Aplenty, thank you so much for your advice on the tablecloth. I haven't finished it yet, but I will show it an update in my whips section. I'm going to try to finish that this month, but thank you for reassuring me that the blue will wash out. And to Lauren Laney, thank you for your advice about keeping the pea pod green. I'm not quite sure if that's what I'm going to do yet, but it's definitely a possibility, and I appreciate your thought on carrying the green up to the alphabet. I've thought about it some more, and I might do that, or I might use the gold in the alphabet, so that's still up in the air as well. But thank you for your comments and your thoughts on that. To Half Stitch Cross Stitch, thank you so much for your thought on combining the two, the moss and the pea pod, for the planters in Lantern Lane. I think that's a really great idea, very creative. I've never done anything like that before, but I'm definitely thinking about giving that a shot. I went to the LNS to specifically look for a new green this month, and I did pick something up. I'll show it in my haul. I'm not sure how it's going to work though, so I'll follow up on that as well once I get back to Lantern Lane, which I haven't worked on at all this month. That's about it for the comments. Thank you so much for your comments and your encouragement, and I just appreciate your thoughts. So I'm going to go ahead and show you my finish for this month, which was the Felt Embroidered Nativity by Kasia J Designs. For this, I finished assembling the pieces and embroidering the fronts, but I haven't made them into like a full set. So I consider it a finish, but not an FFO at this point. So hopefully this month I'll be able to turn that into an FFO and be able to show you a picture of the final product. So I just wanted to go through this really fast because I know a lot of you aren't like embroiderers, you're interested in cross stitch. So I thought they were beautiful, they turned out really well, and so I just wanted to show you just how they look close up. I did post pictures on Instagram, but they weren't like super close up. First I'm going to show you, there's two sheep, alright, and so I'll show you close up one of the sheep. Alright, so the sheep are mostly just French knots. Well, they're just French knots. I am not an expert embroiderer by any means, but this project was just a lot of fun, really simple. It took a lot longer than you'd think, but I still had a lot of fun doing it. Now the camel, it's just one camel, but he has two sides that are identical. So this is the camel. And actually I totally did the saddle blanket wrong. I did it backwards. So it's not even, you know, it's not perfect, but it's kind of my first attempt at an embroidery project, so I think it's fine. And I mean, you use fabric glue, and so once it's down, it's pretty much down. It's difficult to undo, so that's a problem. Now I'll show you the Wise Men quickly. This was my first time working with DMC metallics, and I agree with everyone else, they are a pain to work with. Impossible to thread. Very difficult. I probably won't use them again. The reason I did use this, despite having Krennic of my own, actually in this very similar color, was because it was 6-stranded. I didn't want to go through a ton of Krennic to make it 6-stranded, but I liked the effect of being 6-stranded, that it was thick enough to pass for a crown with just one pass. So that's why I decided to go ahead and use the DMC despite everyone's warnings about it on FlossTube. This one kind of took a long time. And like, they don't look that difficult, and they aren't difficult, they just take a long time because there's just a lot of stitching. Here is a shepherd. This is one of my favorites. Super cute. Okay, and another shepherd is here. And like I said, I mean, this is not difficult to do. It just took some time. And I think it'll be really nice, here's an angel, for my niece and nephews if they ever come over to my house during Christmas time. I wouldn't mind if they got their hands on this as compared to my other nicer nativity sets. And then the last part here is the Holy Family. So here's Joseph. Pretty nice design. I like the scroll work, it's pretty. And here's Mary. She was my first one and also one of the most involved designs. Okay, and last, baby Jesus. This is Jesus. Okay. And his manger just goes right there. Like I said, hopefully this month I'll be able to turn these into an FFO, and I'll be able to show you a picture of them next month all set up. I'm not gonna take video time again next month to show you the FFO, other than just to show you a picture of it. My FFO for this month was the alphabet, which I showed you last month. This alphabet is by Pine Mountain Designs. It's called Spring ABC Sampler, I believe, and it is an embroidery piece that I did on my trip to Israel in March. I managed to find a frame that fit it really well, despite being an odd size. The design is about 8.5 by 11, and so I wanted like a 9 by 12 frame. It's a little bit unusual of size, not impossible to find. I ended up finding a perfect frame at Michael's. It was like 40% off, and it was actually a really great color. When I first saw this this design in my LNS, it was actually in a blue frame, and I found a turquoise frame, and it's like perfect. I think it's super sweet. It was kind of a pain to frame, but I'm not going to talk about that today. So this is my FFO. Sorry for the glare. There we go, that's a little better. So you can see it's a nice dark turquoise. Now, the running was between this one and another one that was kind of a little bit more weathered of wood. And it was like a lighter blue, and initially that's what I was going to get. But then I saw this frame and I fell in love, even though it was more expensive. I think it looks a lot nicer than that weathered wood look. So yeah, this is my FFO, and I'm super proud of it. I think it looks great. This is actually my first official finish for 2016. A little embarrassing because it's May, but there you go. And lastly, I also had a finish that I'm not going to show you on the video, but I'll insert a picture here. This is a small lap quilt that I finished, and it was just a really quick sew. Did it over the weekend. I quilted it on the machine. I like to hand quilt, but I did it on the machine because it's more of like a utility quilt. I just like to have lap quilts around. So this one was a lot of fun to do. All the fabrics are from Joann's. Just really fun to do, easy, quick stitch. So that was another finish that I had this month. Now let's go on to starts. Now I only had one start this month, and that was the May installment of the Joyful World Sal by the Snowflower Diaries. You may recall in my last video I mentioned that I really wanted to do these because they're adorable. I finally got the supplies for them this month, which I'll show in my haul later on, and I got started on the May one. It's not my favorite in the series. My favorite is April and January, but I do like May, and I figured, well, maybe I'll even get it done before May is over and then I could display it for May. So that's why I started on May. So this is my start. This is the May Joyful World Sal. I have a pretty good start on it. I mean, this is a very quick stitch. I worked on it last weekend as well, along with the quilt I made. So really doesn't take that long. I'm using the recommended threads, the Gentle Art Sampler threads, and the only difference in here is I did use DMC for the outline of the cats, and that's because the thread that was called for that was Walnut by the Gentle Art. 123 Stitch did not have Walnut. I got the May threads on 123 Stitch. I got the threads for January and April at my LNS. 123 Stitch did not have Walnut. I went to another LNS later though. Last weekend I went to the LNS to look for a thread for Lantern Lane, which I'll show you later, and I decided just to check out what Walnut looks like, if it compares well with the DMC version, which is DMC 839. And I found something very interesting, and I know this is something that can frequently happen with dye-lots and such, but there were two completely different walnut colors on the shelf, and I took a picture just to show you the difference, just to remind everybody to really pay attention to what you're purchasing, because even if it's called for, it may not be like the perfect color to fit in with your piece. So just pay very close attention to what you're purchasing. So anyway, this is my May Joyful World Sal. Hopefully I'll be able to finish this before next month so I can display it for the month of May. The June Joyful World Sal has been released, and I think it's really sweet too. I don't love it as much as my three favorites, which so far are January, April, and May, as I said. I'm not even sure if I'm going to do February or March or June. I like them and they're really cute. I just don't love them as well as the other three. So that's still up in the air. We'll see where I go with that, but there's the Joyful World Sal. Next, I have two whips that I worked on this month. I of course have other whips in progress, but I didn't really work on them this month. I didn't pull Lantern Lane out at all, except for last weekend when I went to the LNS to try to find a new green for the greenery. The main one that I worked on this month, actually, shockingly, was the tablecloth. I really just kind of want to get this off my shoulders and have it done. And like I discussed in my last video, I want to wash it because it feels really dirty, and use it. So in my last video, I had the entire outer border complete and only needed to do the center border on the inside. I now have a majority of the center border complete, but still have quite a ways to go. So let me show you how far I've gotten. So I've gotten this side complete with the swirls, the scroll work, this side complete with the scroll work, and the top almost complete with the scroll work, and then I still have this side to do. And then I'll come back and do the corners, which I skipped. So, not quite complete, but I got some good progress on it this month, considering how busy I was with school and such. So. Oh, speaking of school, thank you so much for your good wishes. I did well on my rotation. I'm still waiting for the grades back, but I'm happy to have that one behind me. The other whip I worked on this month was my Faith Sampler. You may recall that I've finished several rows and I'm now onto the pink garland that goes under the word faith. And I wasn't a fan of the colors, so I made some adjustments. I changed the pink to a blue, and I adjusted some of the greens accordingly. This is the section that I worked on this month. I did not complete it because after doing about this much on that side, I realized I don't love the colors, I don't love the design. So I'm contemplating if there's some way I can get another motif to put in this area. The difficulty is it's not a very wide space. It's only maybe 20 or 25 boxes wide, or sorry, like deep, and then, you know, the full sampler length wide. And I'm having a hard time finding a motif to fit in that space. But I have another hardanger which my mother made for me when I was 8, and it has like a much more delicate motif in, you know, in this place. And I think something like that I would really like. It's kind of backstitched with some flowers and some beads mixed in, and I think I'd really like something like that. I'll insert a picture of that here so that you can kind of get an idea of what I'm looking for. If you have any idea where I can find a nice motif to put into a sampler, definitely let me know, because I'm having a hard time. I found some stuff on Pinterest, but then I'm like, well, I don't know if this is for sale somewhere, because a lot of this stuff is like uploaded to Pinterest, so it's not like linked to any site. And I kind of feel bad like using stuff off of Pinterest, because it turns out there's like a lot of stuff on there that is for sale elsewhere, but people have just uploaded to the internet, and I really wouldn't want to use stuff like that. I'd want to purchase it for myself to support the designer. So if any of you know a place where I could get nice like viney floral motifs to put in this space, I would really appreciate the advice. So this is the Faith sampler so far, and you've already seen all of this. This is the part that I did this month. And the green kind of just feels a little swampy to me. It's not really like a pretty light springy green like I wanted. And then the blue is nice, but it's just too dark next to that green. So I'm not in love with this. That's why I stopped, because I've never done a piece that's quite as full coverage like this portion, where you're like doing this confetti. So that was kind of a new experience, and it's a little bit more difficult than I anticipated. That's why I stopped, because I was like, well, I don't even like how this is turning out. So I set it aside. Still looking for a replacement motif. So if you know of anywhere I could find something like that, just let me know. I appreciate it. Alright, now I have quite a bit of haul this month. I think that since I didn't have as much time to spend actually stitching this month, I kind of expressed myself in this manner. So one day when I was over on that side of town, I went to a new LNS. It's called In Stitches. It's in Alexandria, Virginia. It was the best LNS I've ever been to. They had, their buyer is like my style, and I just saw like so many patterns I wanted. I didn't buy any patterns. The reason I stopped at this LNS was to get supplies for the Joyful World Sal. So I picked up those supplies and left, but I'm definitely going to go back sometime to look at their patterns, because they had some amazing patterns in there, several that I have wanted to stitch for some time. So it's exciting to find an LNS that has your style, but at the same time a little frightening. So I got this linen. It's a 28 count Cassia linen in Dirty. This is the linen I chose for the Joyful World Sal. And I got a fat quarter plus some, just because they had a little bit more than a fat quarter remaining on the piece they had. I did not use this. Obviously, I used a different fabric for the Joyful World Sal. And that's because when I got it home, I realized that if I do this on 28 count, it's going to be too big. The design is going to be too big to fit into a 5x7 frame. So I got 32 count fabric that will be able to be displayed in a 5x7 frame, which will be a lot easier to display than if I had done it on this fabric, which would have been a much larger frame. I would have had to use like an 8x10, and then I'd have to get a mat, and it's just too much work. So I'm going to save this, of course, and I think this will actually be really nice for the 12 Days of Christmas Sal, which was released last year. Is a freebie by Plum Street Designs, Plum Street Samplers. It's really sweet, and so I want to do that sometime, and I think it will look really nice on this dirty linen. I don't like the name of the linen, but that's how it is. I also, of course, printed off the Joyful World Sal stitches or patterns at my local print shop. So this is February. I think it's sweet, but not my favorite. This is March, a little less favorite, which is too bad because March is my birthday month. But I love April, it's so cute. And then this is May, of course. So those are the patterns I got this month. Well, these are the freebie patterns. I also got a pattern from 123 Stitch because they had Victoria samplers on sale. I think it was only like 25% off, but that was enough to convince me to pick this up. So I got the Heirloom Nativity sampler, which you've heard me discuss previously is something that I've really wanted to do. I think it's beautiful. I did not get the accessory packs because I figure I'm going to hold off on those until I am ready to start. Because if I'd gotten the accessory packs, then I'd have to get the fabric too, and it would have ended up being like a $100 plus purchase, and I just don't really have the funds for that right now. I also got some fabric from 123 Stitch used for the Joyful World Sal. I got these in 9x13 cuts just because the pattern is only supposed to be 5x7, so I figured, well, an extra 1 inch on each side should be enough to frame it in a 5x7 frame. I've never left that small of like a border before, so I feel really nervous about it. So hopefully it works out okay. The fabric I chose was 32 count vintage country mocha. Let me show you what this looks like. It's the first time I have used a fabric that kind of has that hand-dyed effect. So that kind of made me a little nervous too, but I think the May piece is turning out really nice. I'm really liking it so far. So let me show you the May one again so you kind of get an idea of what it looks like stitched. So I really think that this is working well for this pattern, and I think it will work well for the rest of the patterns in the series. So it's kind of exciting. I've never used any linen before that has been dyed like that. I've always used straight colored linen, so kind of exciting. Okay, also from the new LNS, I picked up a ton of threads for the Joyful World Sal. I picked up the ones for January and April. Then through 123 Stitch, I picked up the additional threads needed for May. And this isn't all of them because I've already used some of them in May, but these are all threads by The Gentle Art. I think they're beautiful. And they're just the sweetest colors. Some of them have really great variation. Like this one is called Rhubarb. I think it's beautiful. Really nice variegation. I really love this one too. It's called Lavender Potpourri. Really nice variegation. So that's going to be really fun to stitch. I also bought this B5200, which is a whiter white by DMC, which I'm using on the Joyful World Sal. And I know that all of you have heard of B5200 before, I'm sure. I hadn't, and so I just want to compare, for the sake of those who may not have heard of it before, I want to compare the DMC white with the DMC B5200, which was released because apparently a lot of people were reaching for the Anchor white because the Anchor was a lot whiter than the DMC one, and so DMC put out this B5200 to remedy that situation. So let me just show you. I hope this will show up. So you can kind of see they're both white, but the B5200 is definitely like a whiter white. It almost makes the Blanc look like a cream. So anyway, I've been using that on the May Joyful World Sal, and it's beautiful. I love the brilliancy of that white. Now for Lantern Lane. I love this piece. I haven't worked on it at all this month just because I'm still trying to resolve the problem with the green. And I really appreciate the couple comments that I got last month regarding your thoughts about the green and what color the alphabet should be. So I stopped by my LNS earlier this month, or last weekend, Waste Not Needleworks in Arlington, Virginia, and I picked out a new green. And I'm going to show that to you. So I picked out Piney Woods by The Gentle Art. This is the color. Alright. And it was really hard to pick a color because a lot of them look the same to me. So I'm gonna show you the 3 colors I've used on this piece. This is Classic Colorworks Peapod. This is the color that's on the piece right now, and I feel like it's just a little bit too vibrant with a little bit too much yellow for the tone of this piece. And this is Moss, which I initially put on because I found it most comparable to the called for silk, but I just didn't like it because it was too grim. So I want to show you guys these 3 threads next to each other so that you can kind of compare what they look like between themselves. So this one is Peapod, middle is Moss, and the far one is Piney Woods. And that's the one that I'm planning on using right now. You can kind of see they're very similar kinds of green. I guess Piney Woods is a little bit more brown. I really just don't know what I'm going to do with this piece, you guys. I never wanted it to be this complicated. I've never had a piece where I had to decide which color to use, and I'm getting frustrated because I've already put both of these 2 in and picked this one out completely. And then I have this new one. I'm going to have to pick out the Peapod to use. So I'm just having a really hard time with this piece. That's why I haven't worked on it at all this month. So just a reminder of where I am. This is Lantern Lane. Okay, and from afar, I guess it doesn't look that bad. I really love the house. I love how the house turned out. I kind of wish I had gotten a more variegated brown, but that's okay. I'm not going to pick that out now. This is Trunk for a Tree, and these are the trees I have currently working. These are Peapod. And I don't know. I just feel like it's more vibrant of a green, a lighter, more neon-like green than this piece needs. This is the Piney Woods, and I think it's gonna look nice. So it's just a bit darker. It still has some yellow tones in it, but not as much as like this lime, for example. It still has some variegation, but not as much. So that's kind of what I'm thinking right now. So I'll put some of that in this month, hopefully. As far as the alphabet, which is going to go up here, I was thinking I'm going to use this color. I have a lot of it. I think it's beautiful. I love the variegation in it, and I think it will look really nice up here. What's charted for the alphabet is the brown, but the brown I chose was a replacement brown for the silk, and it's not variegated. And I don't want a whole ton of brown up here that isn't variegated. I don't think that will look very interesting or pretty, so that's why I'm not going to use that. So this is still a major work in progress. I am just not ready to proceed with it yet. Feeling frustrated, but definitely going to finish it sometime. Okay, and my last 2 pieces of haul might be a little less interesting. They're not cross-stitch related, but this is actually embroidery related. So for my birthday, you may recall my sister got me this book. It's the iron-ons for the Doodle Stitching book by Amy Ray, and they're just all these iron-on patterns. And so I decided to get the Doodle Stitching book by Amy Ray, which my sister has, and I've looked at a lot. I really like it. I have some cute patterns in here too. I don't know that I'd ever do that one, but I think it's sweet. And the reason I got this is because it has some really great stitch diagrams inside. Show you how to do different sorts of stitches. And then it also has like some projects, which I probably won't do, but it also like indicates what kind of stitch to go onto each line. So I just thought this was a fun book. It was really cheap on Amazon. It was like $5. So since I found a good deal on it, I figured I'd just pick it up to be a companion piece to my transfer pack. The last purchase I made, which I may return depending on feedback I get from you guys, is this box. I got this at Michael's. It was on sale for like $2 or $3. And the reason I got it was to hold my now growing collection of hand-dyed threads, or over-dyed threads, sorry. And the reason I need some feedback is because I was planning on storing my threads in the little snack Ziploc bags, but come to find out this is only 6 inches wide, and those snack bags are 6.5 inches wide. Now I know that I saw like smaller versions of those snack bags at the grocery store once, but I don't remember the size, and so hopefully they're 6 inches, because they were for like, they were called like calorie counter bags or something like that, so it makes me think they're like smaller than the normal snack bags. But I still need to do some research in that. If they don't end up fitting in this box, I'm going to return it. But if you guys have any ideas on best way to store over-dyed threads that you don't bobbinate, I would really appreciate any thoughts or feedback on that. I'm having a hard time because I kind of just wrap it around, for now I just wrap it around the card that it's sold on and kind of use it off the card like that. So this is my storage idea, but it's still in progress as well. Oh, and actually I completely forgot. I have another item of haul. I got this shortly after my last video, and there was some, so I'm on Instagram. I follow a lot of stitchers on Instagram. If you stitch and you post things on Instagram, please leave your screen name below, because I definitely am always looking for new stitchers to follow. Stitchy Mom on Instagram posted something about a really great sale on chatelaine, and I think it was like 30% off. So I went ahead and bought my Hortus Viridarium pattern, which I am definitely not ready to start at this point. I am not in a place to either pick up that kind of commitment or to purchase that kit from European Cross Stitch, but I have the pattern now. I'm super excited. Now it means like I'm officially going to do it. Here's an image of Hortus Viridarium. It's just so you can see what I'm talking about. I think I showed one in my last video because I was talking about future projects in my last video, and I just picked this one up, so I'm really excited to get that started at some point. Hopefully I can start it sometime this year, but probably not this month. Alright, that's my video for today. I have really enjoyed watching your videos, and I look forward to more from you guys, as well as continuing to stitch. This month I'm still pretty busy with school, but I've been finding a little bit more time to stitch this month than last. So hopefully I can have some more progress to show you guys next month when I post my May updates, I guess, or would it be June updates, because it'll be posting in June. I'm not sure. But hopefully when I show you that update video, I'll have more progress to share. And thank you so much. Any questions or comments, please leave them below. And I really appreciate your subscriptions and your comments. Happy stitching!